Good morning and welcome to a behind the scenes of the Aquarium Co-op plant system and a little bit of how we do things here. So first off, we're going to go in the restricted area, going up the stairs to the mezzanine, because this is where the plumbing magic happens, on top of some extra storage as well. So the first thing we'll start with is the hot water control. So this is a tankless water heater that we had installed. I'm gonna have to move under some sprinkler pipes and everything to show you this. So we have a tankless water heater here, and that is going, we'll follow this along. That guy goes up. That brass T right there is actually a cold water mixer. So it's gonna take cold water, the blue pipe, and it's gonna mix it with the hot water coming up, the white pipe. And you can set the ratio and it'll mix. Follow that, it goes down into our charcoal filter. So that's gonna pull out the chlorines and the chloramines. Again, this is something that we had installed as well, just like the tankless water heater. And then you follow that guy up, and that white pipe goes all the way around. And then that blue box right there, that is the smart water flow meter that we installed. And I'll go under this pipe here. And what's cool about this guy is it allows us to see how much water we're flowing into our plant system, as well as Project Beyonce. For those of you that listen to Deep in the Mulm, you've heard me talk about that for the past couple months. So this is going to allow us to see how many gallons per minute we're using each day and at what time through a really cool app. In addition to that, we also get like leak alarms if it's leaking beyond this. And what else is cool about this? We can turn it on and off remotely, so that's pretty neat as well. And the one bummer is that while we were installing it, I did not use enough Teflon tape on this connection right here. So we have the slowest leak possible. So that's gonna take a little bit of time, and hopefully what we're thinking is that this will just kind of fix itself, because it actually is getting progressively slower and slower. Hopefully maybe a little bit of mineral buildup will actually kind of block that up. If not, if it's still leaking in, let's say, a couple weeks, I mean, it's a very, I think it actually evaporates before it can even collect in this bucket, really. So if it still has that slow leak, we might take this apart and just add more thread tape. Internet says do 2 to 3 wraps. I did about 4 wraps on this one, and it just wasn't enough, and we cranked down that brass fitting pretty well. So I think I'm gonna use 100 wraps next time, and maybe get in there with some type of welder and really seal that sucker up. So a bit disappointing, but the meter works great, so that's really all that matters. Again, if you also listen to us on Deep in the Mulm, you would have heard about some fun plumbing struggles with this little T right here. This T is feeding that hose right there, and that actually goes to a utility sink that we recently installed so that we can do a better job of deep cleaning our plant trays and anything else that needs to be cleaned from our plant system. So this white pipe, let's just go ahead and show you. We'll do a little tour of the mezz. Some extra pallet racking. It's a low ceiling, so I need to be careful I don't whack my head. We have some old printer boxes. This is a gap in the mezz that I've sealed up decently well with some insulation. And the reason we did that is to try to capture and keep an ambient temperature, a consistent temperature down there, and not have any temperature leaks. So that's the pipe that we had installed going down. That's going to feed to 2 spigots, and that's where we get water for our auto top off or water change system, in addition to just an extra utility hose in case we need to have filtered, basically tank temperature water to do any other activity down there. So that's the mezzanine, and then just a whole bunch of empty space up here. Let's go back downstairs. Oh, and if I didn't mention it, that little blue box over there, it allows me to see the temperature as well. So that way I can come back over here, and I've got the 2 ways to adjust temperature. I can adjust temperature directly on the hot water heater itself. Right now it's set at 110 degrees, even though it's kind of flashy on the camera. Or I can reference my hieroglyphics and adjust that end there, turn it clockwise to decrease the temperature or turn it clockwise to increase the temperature. or counterclockwise rather. And counterclockwise, basically that's going to allow more hot water to mix in. Clockwise will decrease the amount of hot water that's able to mix, and then I can control the temperature there. But before we had the smart water meter, it was a guess, and I would just make adjustments, and then we'd have to go downstairs and use a laser thermometer to try to see what temperature it was at. You know, that's only going to be so precise. We do have temperature gauges in the sumps, but nonetheless, this is going to be a much more direct way for me to make adjustments to our water system. So, going back downstairs, mezzanine secured. Here's the utility sink that we installed. And what's cool about this? So this sink came in and it was a little bit too low for us. So we had our 3D print designer come up with this design right here. He got it the first time and they work perfectly. They get it up just the right height that we need. And then let me show you the water pressure here. Did not realize this thing could basically rip off flesh. But that is some industrial kitchen, commercial kitchen stuff right there. Turn that back off. All right. So right now it might be a little loud, but the team is working this morning. And we're gonna pass into the plant zone. And so that little barrier that I just passed is one of our other ways of helping to control temperature in the plant system. So this is the thickest, clear bathroom shower curtain that we could get. I think it's, I don't even want to say what mil I think it is right now, but we've done our best effort to seal up and use this screen. Goes all the way down to the floor. And the idea being is that we want to trap, if it's in the summertime, we want to trap the cooler temperatures in here. If it's wintertime, we want to trap the warmer temperatures in here. So that way our plants can stay at the optimal, 70-ish degrees and not have those crazy fluctuations. Because if it gets too cold, the plants don't like that. And if it gets too hot, the plants really don't like that. All right, let's see here. I'll show you our CO2 tanks. So we run 2 CO2 tanks for the 3 different sumps. We have, what do? We do 2 CO2 lines into each sump. One line is going to go into kind of an aquascaper kind of steel canister filter, but we just use it as a way to inject CO2. You can see the black tube going into the top of that stainless lid. And then we felt like maybe that isn't actually getting enough CO2 into the system, so we more recently added a Aquario, or Aquario, however you pronounce it, a diffuser. So we have CO2 diffusers actually directly going into the sump as well. And I think that actually works a little bit better. And then they're all labeled here. Sump 2 diffuser, Sump 3 canister. So that way we know which ones we need to adjust if we ever need to. Sump, let's see here. System 3 has our lower light, lower CO2 need plants. So their bubble counters are going to be going a little bit slower than the other 2 sumps. Let's see here. What else can I show you about these sumps while I'm standing here? Let's go over some tech that we have. Here's our auto doser that we use for Easy Green. And you can see the green fluid coming into there. This prostatic pump works very, very slowly, and it's almost like a dumb system in that we've tried the units before that have all of the bells and whistles of dates and times and dosing quantities and all that stuff, where this guy is simply, it's on off. So when you turn it on, there's only one setting, there's only one speed, it's gonna go at that speed. So what you need to do is measure and see how much is coming out, do some math and say, okay, this is the dosing rate, how much do I wanna dose? I need to set my CASA timer up there to be on for X number of minutes to give me the dose that I want to go into your system. So we have one of those each set up on each of the sumps. And these are basically all set up the exact same, all 3 of these sumps. Another piece of tech we have is the temperature sensor. It obviously displays it here locally, but the your YoLink app is really good, and so I can see the temperature of each of these sensors on my app, so we can monitor it remotely as well, set alerts if it's getting too hot, set alerts if it's too cold, all that kind of stuff to let us know what's happening. Another more recent addition, this YoLink goes to a water level sensor. So if it gets too low, that guy is gonna chime, and that lets our team know that we need to kick off a manual top off to put more water into the sump. So as we're doing tank maintenance, as we're taking water out of the system and we're putting it in these garbage cans, which are then pumping the water out of here, the overall level of the system drops, and we don't want to burn out our pumps, these return pumps here. So that's why we have that sensor. Before, you would just kind of have to, okay, I can do maybe 2 or 3 tanks, and then I need to kick off a top off so that the sump isn't too low. I mean, that's great, but it requires somebody to remember when you're busy doing tank maintenance. You might not always remember to check on the sump. So having these alarms on each of the sumps is really, really handy. So, Red Reuben's looking pretty good. I love the from the Top Shop. You get a little bit of a weird glare from the LED lighting, a reflection rather, but that's a good looking plant right there. Water wisteria, Reppin's red, hasn't quite turned red yet, but it will, and that plant is super cool. Do we have any pearling on the pearlweed? I posted a picture of this on the forum yesterday. So love walking by these plants when they're pearling. Classic Valsenaria. And so the team just got done doing a plant prep this morning for all the orders that are going out with plants. So that's why we've got some holes in front here, but plenty of Val in backstock though. All right, ooh, red flame sword. Looking good as well. All the plants are looking good. Oh, there's Project Beyonce. We gotta blur that out. Okay, so let's walk back here. So we're gonna go back to water. All right, so there's that pipe coming in. Comes down here, we've got a shut off, it tees, and we have 2 spigots. One spigot is going to our auto water change for the plants, and it's now going to Project Beyonce. So we recently added another tee here. So this one's for the plants, this one's for Project Beyonce. This guy is always on. This is our utility line. So if we ever need to just fill up a sump manually or fill up a tank manually or whatever it is, we'll use this hose right here. And not a big flex or anything, but we use the actual rubber hoses. They seem to be the best as far as durability, because we're pretty rough on the hoses here, given that it's like a working warehouse. So we're gonna follow this hose line here, and I'm behind the tanks right now. In our Washington warehouse, this space was like non-existent. Like this space would have been me pushed up against this wall. But like right now I can kind of, what do we got? 3 feet of space in here. So this is luxurious, very nice. All right, so we follow this hose up, and this is where I get to do some Spider-Man climbing. There we go. Don't drop the camera. All right, so that hose goes into that sprinkler valve controller solenoid guy, and it's controlled by this ratio. So another app-based tool that we have where we have schedule set to kick off a daily kind of water top off because of evaporation, but we can also do the manual water changes as well, or manual top offs. And it controls that guy right there. And now Project Beyonce is also feeding into this controller, so I can do the same thing with Project Beyonce, which I'm sure we'll have some more in-depth videos on that when we actually launch the product and everything. But yeah, that's how we kick off a water top off. We follow that PVC pipe, comes over, and we've got 1 tee for that for sump 3, another tee in the distance for sump 2, and then at the very end where I was just standing showing you a sump, there is another tee. So we're gonna drop back down on the back side of Tropica. Love the leaves on this one. All right. You always have something cool to look at when you're in our warehouse. Blur Beyonce. Tiger Lotus. This one, it's like if I need to post a picture from the warehouse, it is hard not to just want to take pictures of Tiger Lotus and Dwarf Aquarium Lily Bulb. They always look so good. Awesome. Okay, here's a closer look of the water coming down. So you see it right there? And this is the water line that you would have going into your refrigerator for your drinking water. And then to secure it in place, we drill a hole that's like just big enough to like friction fit, so that water is going directly into the sump. And when we kick off a water change, we're not gonna get 100% pure water change because some of it will go over and spill out. But from a top off perspective with evaporation, we don't have any lids on any of these aquariums. It does the job. All right. What else is looking cool? Mayaca. I love Mayaca. Such a cool, like feathery, wispy plant. Jungle Val looking good. Banana plants, we got our rosy barbs in there working. Alrighty, what else do we have? Bum, bum, bum. Let's go take a look at... Oh, we have some live plant prepping. I'm gonna be very quiet as I show live plant prepping. So this is an example of how we prep Java moss mats. So the Java moss mat is wrapped in paper towels just for Java moss mat. Everything else is gonna get a tea bag. And I'll show you what the final product looks like. So if it was a potted plant, it would go in a tea bag. And for Java moss mats, it's just easier and just better overall to use the paper towels for Java moss mats. We will individually bag them and then slap a barcode on there. And we only do one species per table at a time, so that way we don't mix anything up, and we make sure that we send you the correct plant every time. I'm seriously talking like I'm in a library right now. And then these racks right here, these all hold our bins for plants. And so once you get done prepping at one of the prep table, you'll pick an empty bin and you will move those items. So like this one right here, this is an example of Java fern. And so we do this every morning. It's our big plant prep. And then we'll do it a couple times throughout the day as orders come in. But the first time we do it, the first morning plant prep is always the biggest. So potted plant, Java fern, in the tea bag, in a double sealed Ziploc bag, which this took a long time to find this bag. It is leak proof, it's waterproof, a little bit more expensive, but creates for a much better experience. And then we can just kind of pop around and see all the different plants. Sell a lot of Amazon swords. And so if there's still a lot of plants in there, that just means that that's probably some of the higher sellers. So Pogo, easily in the top 5. Yeah, really cool presentation. So we've been doing it that way for several years now. But those tea bags are custom made for us in the small and large size. Okay, and then our system tells us what bin to go to, and we pick 12 orders at a time, and we just drop it in there. And then depending on time of year, your order, depending on our weather algorithm, may get a liner, or it may get, it would be actually, potentially a heat pack. And then here's a faraway view of our plant prep area. And we've been here for about 1.5 years now, and this has already gone through, 2 or 3 iterations, at least with the plant prep stations and kind of how we have everything laid out for the material flow to get into the pick bins. But this configuration is working out really well for us. Oh, one last thing. Let's go back into the warm zone. I want to show you our HVAC investment. So we now have 3 mini split head units in here to help us climate control. So we keep them set at 71 degrees. So whether it's summertime or wintertime, we want to keep this as stable, as close to 70, 71, 72 as possible. And this was not a cheap investment, but it was something that, here in Kentucky, we have humid, fairly humid, warm summers. And in the wintertime, we're not the coldest in the country, but, we get snow several times a year, and it gets cold. So we want to make sure that we're keeping our plants at the optimal temperature so that they continue to thrive and be nice and healthy before they get shipped out to you. So investing in the mini split system, just giving you another view of the plants. Java fern always looking good. So yeah, let me know what you think of our plant system. Let me know if you have any questions, anything I can maybe make a video about in the future, again, about maybe going a little bit more in depth and detail. Very excited to show you Project Beyonce. Doing a test right now for Project Beyonce here with those 6 buckets. That we don't need to blur out. We can leave the buckets in the shot. This is system 4, or plant row 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3 labeled. Number 4 is, as we continue to grow, we wanted to go ahead and say, all right, this is where the 4th system is gonna go. We got all the tanks water tested. We've got our lights that are hung. This thing's basically almost ready to go. We just need to do bulkheads. We need to do bulkheads, the drain plumbing, and then the sump. But we've got, I don't know, we're at least 70% of the way there with this system. We're not quite there yet. Maybe within the next year or so, we'll need to fire up row 4, but we have the expansion ready to go if we need to. And then this is obviously Project Beyonce. If Project Beyonce really takes off and that product is really successful, and depending on where we are with plants, maybe this gets turned into half Beyonce, half plants, or vice versa. One thing that's very important with Beyonce is that we want to keep it pest-free. So we have very strict biosecurity around this. So we don't mix any of our nets or any of our tools that we use in the plant system. We don't want to introduce snails into Project Beyonce. So we keep biosecurity very high. I love using that term. So yeah, separate tools for that. So that would potentially be a challenge here of using the same rack system, even though we'd be on 2 different sump systems, how we would ensure biosecurity to make sure that the snails, which are just naturally there, right? They're naturally there. You're never gonna get, well, I don't wanna say never get, but we can never guarantee that you're gonna get a snail-free plant. Like even right here, we don't really see any snails, but it happens. And that's just a part of having a planted tank, is that unless you do 100% tissue culture, you always have that risk of getting snails. And honestly, snails are fine. They're gonna help you keep your tank clean and break down uneaten food. And they're gonna let you know if you're overfeeding. If your snail population is just exploding, then you're probably overfeeding. So really nothing wrong with snails, but we just don't want to have that with Project Beyonce given the nature of that product. So yeah, again, kind of rambling, but if there's anything else you want me to show you, that is Rotala converted. Here's unconverted Rotala, and then as it converts, changes over to that and just looks absolutely gorgeous. Even as that is a cool plant, those round leaves, and then it changes over and has those thinner needle-like leaves, very fine, but looking awesome. Yeah, so let me know if there's anything else you would like to see. Thank you for your time and your support.